Cole, been a long time, bud. How you been?
You take me as a Tom Petty guy. You really do.
I love Tom Petty. I think he's in the conversation for, along with the Heartbreakers, for the best American rock band.
There's nothing wrong being a Tom Petty guy, but I don't know if I'm going to put him up that high, but he's a rock icon. There's no doubt about that.
The thing with trying to figure out the U.S. is the best American rock band is that they can't hold a candle to what we've seen from the Beatles and the Rolling Stones. Nobody has any longevity like that. So trying to find the best American is always tricky. Hey Cole, you've been all over the SEC this year. You've seen far more SEC football than I have, but I start stacking these resumes up of all 14 of the SEC teams. And I look around and I just see three really good teams: Alabama, Auburn, and Georgia. And I see a lot of so-so teams. What's wrong with the SEC?
Oh, I think that's a complicated answer because it varies. But I think depth is an issue. I think coaching is a major issue. I think line play on both sides of the ball is an issue. Development of talent is an issue. And maybe the expectation is an issue. We've become accustomed to seeing the league and certain teams within the league be dominant, and we don't have that right now as a league. And I think when you don't have what you have had for a long time, sometimes you look even further down on present day and what you currently have, and it makes it look a little bit worse. Not trying to really take up for the league and say it's better than I think it is, because I don't think it's very good right now. I mean, I think you have one team that is proving that they are the head of the class, and I think you have a tier 2 team in Georgia that has proven a lot. We had the best overall opponent record in the league. And I think they're actually improving week by week, which is pretty scary. And then I think you have a team in Auburn that would probably be tier 3 that I'll still take a wait-and-see approach with when it comes to being anywhere near those other two. There are certain facets of Auburn's game that are there. I mean, the defense is there. The kicking game is there. But I'm not sure the offense is ready to be on a stage with two other teams that appear to be ready to compete for a spot in the college football playoff. Everybody else, I think, is maybe they become too reliant on individuals. Maybe LSU thought Darius Geis was going to be enough to carry them. Maybe Mississippi State thought Nick Fitzgerald could be enough to carry them. Maybe Ole Miss thought not having a run game and not having an offensive line wouldn't matter because they had all these receivers and a mobile quarterback. Florida has been reliant on talent for a long time, and maybe lack of scheme and diversity with that is beginning to catch up with them. So, I mean, there are some that are understandable. A lot of people thought South Carolina was really going to exceed expectations this year. Well, you take away their best offensive lineman in Zach Bailey, their best overall football player in Deebo Samuel, another starting offensive lineman in Corey Helms, one of your starting linebacker in Bryson Allen Williams. That team is not ready to deal with that. And that's why they're a very different football team. And then I think you have teams, Tennessee the same way. Not so much from an injury perspective, but Tennessee right now is not built to lose the second or third best quarterback in school history, arguably the best defensive lineman in school history, and that includes Reggie White. So they're not ready to replace those kind of guys just yet. So I think there's teams like Kentucky that are still better than people are giving them credit for. Kentucky just plays to the level of their opponent, and that's not a good thing, but I also don't think that we should look at them and say that makes them a bad team. So there are a lot of different issues with a lot of different teams across the league. Arkansas still can't protect their quarterback, and they lost a returning 1,000-yard rusher that I thought was going to be one of the better ones in the league coming back. Those are things they don't have the guys to overcome that just yet. So I think there's also a lot of teams that want to be somebody that they're not, and they don't stay true to themselves, and they either try to be a power team or they try to be a spread team, and they try to be a hurry-up team, or they try to slow it down, or they try to be a pressure team, and they're just not built to be that kind of team. There's only a few teams, Kentucky, Bama, Georgia, Auburn defensively, that are really playing football as to what they are built to be and what their personnel will allow them to be ultimately very successful with.
Cole, I'm right there with you on Kentucky. I think you nailed it. They just play to the level of their competition, but I think they're a solid football team. As you said something interesting that I wanted to go back to. You said you had Georgia over Auburn at this moment, and I would kind of have those flip-flop. I just look at Auburn's defense, and they may be the best defense in the conference. And I just look at what they've done. I mean, Mississippi State isn't as bad, or we think they're not as bad as they've shown the last 2 weeks, but Auburn just put it on them. And Mississippi State was never in that game. And I know Georgia goes on the road and beats Notre Dame. Why do you have Georgia over Auburn right now?
I like what they're doing offensively, and I'm more confident in that offense than I am Auburn's, and I'm more confident in Auburn's defense than Georgia's. But I think those groups are much closer. I like what Chaney has done with this offense. The O-line is revamped. They're slender. They're leaner. They're really attacking the perimeter, and then after you begin to give a little too much flow there, they come back between the tackles. I just think Jake Fromm is a really good college quarterback, and he gives you what you need in a college system to be successful. The understanding of RPOs, pretty good mobility, and quick release. Those are things that he has a pretty good grasp of and understands. They got 4 running backs that can play and a couple tight ends that can help out, a pretty good fullback. So if they need to go physical, they've got bonus bigs that they can do that with. And I feel like when I watch Georgia operate offensively, I have a better feel that they know who they are and what they want to be than Auburn does right now. And I think Auburn has taken advantage of. There were multiple defensive backs, safeties, and corners just flat out of place against Auburn Saturday night. And I think you credit Auburn for taking advantage of it, and you credit Stidham and company for finding it. But that's not something that I think can consistently be. Yeah, you can look at some of the trick plays they've had and say those aren't going to keep coming. But I feel like the consistent success, I have a better feeling that Georgia can keep that going offensively than Auburn right now.
What do you think of Auburn on the offensive line? Austin Golson's played better maybe than people expected, but overall as a unit, what do you think of them? And obviously Braden Smith may be the best guard in the SEC.
I think Braden Smith is the best guard in the SEC. And I think Austin Golson probably right now is the most valuable offensive lineman in the SEC. To start at center and then right tackle and then left tackle in 3 consecutive weeks, that's difficult. That is not an easy thing to do just from a preparation standpoint, mentally understanding your assignments and where to be on the field. So those aren't the problems. And Casey Dunn's come in and played really well at center. I mean, left guard and right tackle, well, depending on where Austin Golson is, the opposite tackle of Golson and left guard are your problems. And left guard's not as much of a problem. But we all know in this league, tackle gets you beat. And you can cover up a guard, you can cover up a center, very difficult to cover up a tackle. And Auburn is struggling opposite Austin Golson at tackle. And until they figure it out, there's going to be a lot of ways that teams have a chance to be successful rushing the passer and stopping the run.
Talking to Cole Cubelic, SEC Network sideline analyst, also the host of the Cube Show up in North Alabama. Cole, when you look at Alabama right now, what do you see? I mean, obviously there's a lot of talent on offense, and they're starting to realize it. Looks like that offensive line is starting to come together and maybe be what we thought they might be at the beginning of the season. You've looked at some film. What do you think of that offense right now?
What I really like most about Alabama's offense right now is what Brian Daboll and Nick Saban have come to the conclusion of what they are. And you're seeing a lot of bigger sets. You're seeing some overload. You're seeing some heavy packages that are a little bit different. I mean, if you go back to the first play of the game against Ole Miss, and you had Womack in the game lined up as a tight end to the left and Jedrick Willis as tackle to the right. Come back a few plays later, and all of a sudden you've got Jonah Williams lined up as a tight end right and Hinches lined up as a tackle to the left. I mean, they're doing some things up front to cause confusion and to try and get teams misaligned. and that's an easy way to steal yards. But I think more important than that, they realize that Jalen Hurts is probably the best carrier of the football on the team, and have basically said, hey, we've got maybe our best back playing quarterback. He has shown he's durable enough to handle it. We're confident in the kid behind him that if we had to go with him, we wouldn't lose a ton, or maybe be a little bit different enough to still be successful. But our best chance of winning is with our quarterback running the ball, so let's run him. I mean, kid's got 20 carries of 10 or more yards this year. That leads the SEC. And I think it changes the dynamic of their offense, because no defense that I've seen yet has figured out to say, Calvin Ridley gets us, so be it. If Bo Scarborough gets us, so be it. If Hunter Henches gets us, so be it. Robert Stewart, whoever. Robert Foster, whoever. Cam Sims, take your pick. But nobody has really settled in and says, we can't let that quarterback beat us running the football. And it's tough. It strains the defense to have that guy being able to run the ball that well, because he's the unaccounted for man in almost every scheme that you draw up. So I don't think until a team decides they're going to do everything they can. I'm not saying that you can just decide to take it away, but at least until they schematically take the approach of, we are going to take away Jalen Hurts running the football, and give themselves the opportunity, the best opportunity to do that, I don't think anybody's slowing that offense down, to be honest with you. The offensive line's playing good enough. I don't think they're great. I don't think they're dominant by any stretch of the imagination. They played a couple D lines the last 2 weeks that just are not very big and not overall very good. But that's okay. They handled them the way they're supposed to. I don't hate on anybody for taking care of their business. I get really pissed off when people see a tackle or a guard smash a corner 5 yards out of bounds and say, well, he's supposed to do that. Well, he took care of him the way he should have. That's what you do. If it was so easy, they would do it 20 times a game. So Alabama has taken care of their business up front along the offensive line. They're improving week to week. I think Pierce Walker's played great ball. I think Jonah's been fine. I think Lester Cotton's coming along at right guard. He still has some fundamental mistakes that he makes. And they're still trying to figure it out at right tackle. But that group is good enough to win every game they've got on the schedule. I know that. And until Alabama runs into an elite defensive line, and more important, I think this is the most important trait that a team is going to have to truly challenge Alabama, Aaron, is they're going to have to tackle well. Because I put that Ole Miss film on, and you see plays that should have no gain, 3-yard, 4-yard gains that are going for 14, 40, and 60 yards. And if you play Alabama and don't tackle well, you're going to get destroyed.